So I am going to jump right in. Just as a little bit of background, so I lead the Office of Energy and Climate Change at the county. County Exec Parisi established this office in 2017 to really do two things: to coordinate our internal efforts to reduce our emissions, and we've done pretty ambitious things. We're the first county in Wisconsin that all of the electricity we use in all of our operations, in all of our facilities, is 100% renewable offset. And by 2030, we intend that our facilities, fleet, and land operations will be completely carbon neutral. So big goals internally. Most of our time, though, we spend on countywide emissions. We did a 2020 climate action plan with the aim of cutting countywide emissions in half by 2030 and achieving carbon neutrality by 2050. You can see the plan online at our website and lots of other things. You can sign up for the newsletter there. Thanks, Melinda, for that shout out. The thing I will start with, though, here noting is we are part of county government, and that means we have very limited authority. So we're trying to achieve big climate goals consistent with what our community expects, but we cannot mandate things. We're the county. We don't have that authority. So there are really three big strategies in what we do. The first is leading by example. So the work we've done with our own facilities, and a good example is, the partnership we created with Alliant Energy that got us to 100% renewable offset now inspired the village of McFarland and their school district to do a joint project with Alliant that's going to help them achieve their climate goals too. So how do we do things in a transparent way that helps others? And so maybe the first takeaway I want you to have is we're always willing to share whatever we know about how something works to make it easier for other folks to do that too. So you can always call us and go, hey, help me understand how you did this, which we very much did with McFarland through that. So it's important to us that we're leading by example, but it's also important that we acknowledge all the other leadership in our communities. And the reality is Dane County is a pretty amazing place. There are lots of folks doing really cool things in the climate space. So for 4 years now, we've done a Climate Champions program where we recognize businesses, nonprofits, local governments that are doing something cool in the climate space. They might have a really energy efficient building. They might be making it easier for their customers to achieve sustainability in some way, waste management, land practices. Really, we have a category for everything. And this is an opportune time for me to be talking about Climate Champions because our 2022 process is currently open. So if you look at that big list of logos there and there's somebody who's doing cool things that's not on there, this is the time to nudge them toward our website to say, hey, you should share what you're doing because you could get some recognition there for your work. So we lead by example, we celebrate what others are doing, and then we spend a lot of time trying to make it easier for folks to go green. And one of the places that we're doing a lot of this is around...
Kathy, one quick second. It looks like your slides are not advancing.
It didn't go to making it go green
so
now?
We're just still on the clean energy funding opportunities. We didn't see all those logos. Once you said the logos, I thought we weren't advancing.
Okay, let me stop sharing and start sharing it. The logo slide has a lot of logos, so it might be that it...
Once you started talking about it, I was like, I see it in the corner, but I definitely could not see the logos because of the size.
Okay.
So
we're going to try this. We're going to try tricking it a little bit.
Perfect. Sorry, I just want to make sure you knew that.
No, yeah, that's super annoying and helpful in a not what I want to hear.
We're here to be helpful, not annoying. We try.
From the current slide. No, do this from the current slide. Okay. Okay.
There we go.
See that slide.
Now we can see. Yeah, now we can see all the logos. Yep,
now if I go from the current slide. Yeah, I think because, okay, we're going to just go to the next slide. Sorry, I think the trick there is that there are so many logos on that slide and it's.
There we go. Now we're seeing it.
a little
Perfect.
bit-
Perfect.
Okay, let's just do that. I don't know. Okay, we're gonna just keep going because it
Just go manually. That could work too. Perfect. Thank you.
yeah. Okay, so doing lots of things to really increase awareness and access to all of this federal funding. So we have a whole section of our website now devoted to federal funding. You can sign up for email alerts. Our aim is to read all of these federal guidance documents and then summarize it into 6 to 8 bullets and put it online so that regular people can understand and access what's going on here. Nothing, I'm sorry, Jason, nothing wants to make it move.
Do you want to, you could send it to me and then I could share.
Oh, I never have slideshows. Hang on a second. Let me
It's-
stop sharing a
Yep.
second and go over here and see what.
Let me be very clear, Kathy. Every single one of us on this call has had this exact same thing happen to us multiple times. Daily, sometimes with me, I feel like.
Okay, now there's only one of it. So if I go there and I come back over here, I know, but but every time it happens, you think, how can that?
But everyone's watching, and yeah.
At this point, we've been doing this for 3 years this way.
Know.
Why is it giving us so much? There it is. Let's see if we can. Okay, so we're making it easier to go green. And we're doing
Perfect.
this because there is, are you seeing the unprecedented level of federal funding now?
No, we're not. It's just not advancing. It seems like. So maybe if you do it manually, just literally click on 6.
Yeah, we're gonna.
There you go. Perfect. Perfect. There you go.
Okay, so back in, I've been in the energy world for a long time. So back in 2009, when we were talking about $30 billion a year for clean energy, that seemed like huge amounts of money. Now we're talking about $150 billion a year for clean energy. So like the scale of what we're doing, there's like unprecedented isn't an unprecedented enough word to use to talk about how big this funding is. So just a tremendous amount of funding. Another way to look at this, let's do it that way, is this is kind of quarterly clean energy investments just from 2018 to 2023. And in that time frame here in the Great Lakes region, our investments went from $1 billion to $8 billion. So really just a lot of growth in this. And the investments are growing in a lot of different ways. So I'm going to show you a variety of national maps around this to fire you up a little bit. So this is 3 maps. This first map here is about retail investments, so consumer purchases, which is mostly heat pumps and rooftop solar. And you can see that the most activity there is in the South. Heat pumps are a terrific opportunity in the South because they don't really need to heat, and heat pumps cool, ironically, very efficiently. The middle map is about where we're seeing manufacturing investments. So the companies who are announcing investments in electric vehicle manufacturing or battery technology or solar panels. And this is really mostly concentrated in Tennessee and Michigan. And then the final graph is where the clean energy investments are happening at a utility scale. And that's dominated by the wind investments. So it's sort of all in the Great Plains kind of thing. What I sort of want you to take away from those 3 maps is there's not a lot happening on any of them in Wisconsin, which I want, which will be a point we'll come back to here. This is another way of looking at that manufacturing investments where you get a little bit more detail. And I'll send this deck to Jason afterwards so he can send it out so everybody can study the maps closely. This is just showing again where you're seeing those announcements of of electric vehicle factories or battery factories. And, you know, again, a lot in Michigan, a lot in Tennessee, the Carolinas, but we've not, even though Wisconsin has a strong manufacturing history, there's not been a lot happening there yet. And that's what's really driving us to be doing the kind of outreach I'm doing here, is that we're really concerned that our region get its share of these benefits, that there are billions of dollars in federal funding, there's new manufacturing coming, there's all the business development and growth associated with all of that. And because so much of this funding is tax credits happen where projects happen. So there is no allocation of tax credits to states. It's entirely feasible that the Inflation Reduction Act could run for its 10 years of tax credit. So it runs through 2032. And at the end, there could be, you know, hundreds of billions of dollars of tax credits granted. Let's say the worst case scenario, 90% of it to California and the East Coast. And from the federal perspective, that would be successful because they paid out tax credits, clean energy projects happen. But maybe none of that happens in Wisconsin. That would be a disaster to us that we missed all of that opportunity. So that's really why we're fired up about, okay, how do we help people make sure that we get our share of what we're calling the pie here. If I move that like that, it's a little better. So hence all the work we've done on our website. We just added a new staff person in our office, Valora Gutouras, who is going to work primarily with nonprofits and small businesses to help them make sense of these opportunities. She's also doing some work with our local governments and school districts, you know, because we want that opportunity there to take advantage of these things. So let's then talk about what are these things, Kathy, that you think we should take advantage of. And I start with renewable energy because the Inflation Reduction Act loves renewable energy. There are renewable energy tax credits for everyone. So you start with a 30% credit on the total cost of your project for solar, wind, battery storage, or geothermal. And then in some cases, you can get bonus credits if you are, if the project serves a low-income community, if it's in certain census tracts because of historic energy usage in those tracts, if you meet American-made standards, you know, there's different bonus things that can increase your credit another 10 to 40%. So in some cases, people are getting a 70% credit on their project. And the other thing to know about this is it really is for everyone now. So historically, businesses had tax credits for renewable energy, but you had to have a tax appetite to use that credit. You know, if you were a small farmer, you might not have enough tax liability to claim the tax credit. Well, the Congress fixed that here. They created a very clear transferability where essentially if you can't use the tax credit, you can sell it now. Tax exempt entities like school districts, many of our hospitals, our local governments, nonprofits. Historically, we couldn't use tax credits because we don't pay federal taxes. Congress invented a new thing that they called direct or elective pay, and we can claim those credits directly from the IRS, even though we don't pay taxes. And then, of course, they're also available for homes and apartments. So there really is this way that everyone can access renewable energy credits. And this couldn't have happened at a better time because the cost of especially solar is increasingly affordable. So this is a graph from the National Renewable Energy Lab that shows the price of a solar array for a home or a business from 2010 to 2020 and sort of the components. The important component is this bottom one. This is the solar panels. So back in 2010, you would have paid about $2.50 a watt for solar panels. And by 2020, that was 50 cents a watt. So the systems are increasingly affordable. And now, of course, you layer on top of this that you get 30%, almost a third of that cost back from the federal government. So that makes this just really affordable. And we're seeing that with some other technologies too. I think the best way, though, to illustrate this is to give you an example. So the Village of McFarland last year completed a public safety center, and it qualifies for the Inflation Reduction Act elective pay credits. Their project has solar and geothermal totaling about $3.3 million, those two systems. And they're going to get $1 million back from the federal government for that project. And this, because this is a tax credit, they probably spent close to half a day doing the paperwork associated with this. Now, it's not atypical for us when we do federal grants to maybe spend weeks or even a month doing a grant application. They spent half a day and they're going to get a check for $1 million, no strings attached. And so these opportunities are really huge for our businesses as well as our nonprofits, and really thinking about that piece. So that's the renewable energy piece. The energy efficiency piece here is a little bit less exciting. So it's a tax deduction for businesses, not a tax credit. A tax deduction comes off your profit before you apply your tax rate, whereas the tax credit comes off the amount of money you owe. This, though, I think is a unique opportunity right now for our businesses in Madison. So what this is a tax deduction you claim, and it's based on the square footage of the building if you improve the energy efficiency of the building by at least 25%. And why I think this is a unique opportunity right now for Madison is the city of Madison is about to roll out their program requiring commercial properties over 100,000 square feet to do a benchmarking analysis, which would sort of give you the basis for figuring out if you can do this. So if you have a 100,000 square feet building and you manage to identify measures that could reduce energy use by 25%, you would get $250,000 as a tax deduction. Not this tax deduction is going to work best for older, large, inefficient buildings. You know, that's where the math is going to work out the best. So there may be some opportunities we see as we move forward with the benchmarking. We've been thinking about how we make sure that as the city communicates out, they include information about this tax deduction so that folks are aware of that. So that's the efficiency side. Because Chad is on the call, I want to note that there are also tax credits for builders to build very efficient new homes, whether those are single family homes or apartments, that go up to $5,000 a unit credits. And Wisconsin builders have a tradition of getting those really efficient home credits in the past. I'm really hopeful that some of our builders are going to be able to realize those credits too. So that's the energy efficiency piece. Then there is a piece about electric vehicles for fleets. And the important thing to know as a business here is the $7,500 credit for light duty vehicles. First, it applies to all EVs, but it also applies to non-road vehicles. So forklifts, commercial lawnmowers, all of that stuff you can get the $7,500 credit for. And as a business, if you follow EVs, there's a list of models that as an individual you can get the tax credit for. That doesn't apply to businesses. Two separate places in the tax code. Businesses, the $7,500 applies to all of the EVs. So a little bit simpler for businesses there. And there's also some tax credits for EV charging infrastructure in rural or low-income areas. And so there are some maps that help you determine if you can access that. in general, we're not seeing a lot of good opportunities where those tax credits apply, but you might have one. And then in addition, I always just like to say, you know, all of that was for businesses and nonprofits, but there are also tax credits for homeowners around energy efficiency and renewables. The tax credits for electric vehicles as of 2024 can be instant at the dealership. Nearly all of our local dealerships are now offering the instant. So that means that you see the Chevy Bolt as an example of a vehicle that is eligible for the individual credit on the lot. They take the $7,500 off the purchase price. You pay lower sales tax and everything, and you're like done with the credit way up front. The other thing to know for individuals is that there is going to be a rebate program for low and moderate income households that'll run through Focus on Energy, funded with federal funds, that'll roll out later this summer, kind of thing. So really a lot of effort there too. Okay, a couple more things. So the clean tech manufacturing, the thing I mentioned before, that there is a tax credit for businesses that make something that is in the electric vehicle pipeline or the solar pipeline. And they can get a tax credit for expanding their manufacturing. And we have an example now in Wisconsin. Eaton Corporation got 1.3 million for expanding their capacity to manufacture transformers, kind of thing. So it's starting to be more real. I think those examples are going to help fire up more folks to think about how they can qualify. A couple of other programs just to make you aware of. So there is also a USDA rural, this is a loan or grant program for efficiency or renewables, and it's for rural small businesses or ag producers. And essentially they have a map, and the darker, it's not the greatest color contrast here, but the darker tan here that's Madison proper is not eligible, but pretty quickly in Dane County, folks are eligible for this in terms of rural areas. And then there's a bunch more financing coming soon. Here in Wisconsin, WEDC is launching a green innovation fund that will provide some innovative financing, credit enhancement for clean energy projects. There's also a number of entities nationally who've received $20 billion to do national green bank kinds of initiatives. A lot of that is still evolving, but I think the bottom line means if you have a big idea, it is a good time to start talking to folks at WEDC about access to funding. There will also be a new initiative for solar on low and moderate income households that way. And then of course there are a ton of competitive grants in this, you know, that there are the Department of Energy, the Department of Transportation, Environmental Protection Agency are all issuing grants. It's kind of a tsunami of grant opportunities. A lot of these things have an emphasis on environmental justice, on communities that have been largely underserved in the past. And the processes are very competitive. You should know that the city and county staff are collaborating on these things all the time. We're working with the other local communities and regional groups to try to bring these dollars to Wisconsin. In some cases, the state gets a direct allocation from the feds and then re-grants it locally. Those opportunities are a little bit easier to access, and we're trying to help folks take advantage of those too. I want to kind of close by just really emphasizing that here in Dane County, we are uniquely well poised to take advantage of these federal dollars. First, because we have a network of clean energy vendors. So if you were in, I don't know, Wyoming, you might have some trouble finding a solar contractor to help you figure out if you could do a solar project. Here, this is a focus on energy map that's actually a map of solar contractors, I think. And there are, whatever that says, Tiny, there are 18 in Madison proper and then more across Dane County. You know, we've got a network. Our local auto dealerships are selling electric vehicles. They understand electric vehicles. So there's infrastructure support. Plus, we've got a really robust statewide focus on energy program that can provide technical assistance. We have property assessed clean energy financing, so you can do these projects with positive cash flow. And our office is always willing to help make sense of all of that. So, you know, my rah closing here is really that, you know, this is this opportunity to bring dollars to the region. We are talking about these opportunities all the time, and we always welcome these conversations because we want all of you talking about these opportunities too. I do think the other thing we can do in Dane County is we've got these amazing examples. Melinda earlier mentioned that there is an event June 20th at Forest Edge Elementary in Oregon, which is the first net zero energy school in Wisconsin. It's a school with geothermal and solar, where their solar produces all of the energy they use on site on an annual basis. It's, again, the McFarland Public Safety Center. You know, we've got examples of public facilities where folks will let your team go kick the tires at something and see what they think if they're, you know, thinking about this in their own efforts. And so with that, I'm going to close and stop sharing and see what questions you all have.
Thank you so much, Kathy. And I'll make sure we get some information out about the Forest Ridge Elementary School. It's Thursday, she said, June 20th. It's 1 to 3:30. And I think there are a number of partners involved in bringing people together. But if you're not familiar with Blue Green Alliance, that's another great resource. It's environmental agencies and nonprofits working with the trades, unions, again, looking for opportunities that do the right things for climate, but also help economically with great paying jobs. So I'll make sure that, Jason, you have that information to share with folks. And again, Jason, if you wouldn't mind flagging any questions, that would be great.
Absolutely. Excuse me. Absolutely. So any questions for Kathy? And thank you very much, Kathy. Excellent. I learned a ton. Chad, how are you this morning?
Good. Kathy, thanks for the presentation, and we'll definitely get you maybe in August or September to meet with our builders. Just a quick question, because one of the issues that a lot of our builders had kind of poised to us is the reason why they don't push solar and geo, obviously, is the cost factor. But at the end of the day, it's up to the consumer who wants to pay for it or not. So they'd love to put it on everything. It was the appraisal process. I don't know if you know if that's been fixed, because before, appraisers were not counting the cost of green energy into the appraised value and making it an out-of-pocket cost for consumers to have to cover.
Right.
So,
Chad, I love that you are raising this. Like, you and I need to take this on. So I haven't talked to so you are the first one who recently has said this to me. I know it's an issue because I have solar on my house, and when we refinanced, the appraiser told me the solar didn't, like, he couldn't put it in the value because there aren't comparables, blah, blah, blah. But that was probably 8 years ago. Like, we're in a different spot. I totally want to hear more about what builders are experiencing there and figure out how we have a conversation, because the data is super clear that in a development, if some homes have solar and others don't, the solar homes will sell first for a higher price. I mean, you know, we need to get past this, that it isn't, yeah. So I don't have a perfect answer for you, but I'm like fired up to follow up with you and figure out how we tackle that, because that should not be, particularly in our market. I mean, you know, we're in a market where 8 in 10 people are concerned about climate change. You know, their Yale Climate does these amazing national polling that they can bring down to the county level. And when you look at their opinion maps, Dane County is always this standout county in Wisconsin where people want to see more action yesterday. Trust me, those people call me all the time. I can assure you there's lots of them out there. And yeah, this is a market where there shouldn't be those kind of barriers. So I'm making a note. We're going to figure that out, Chad.
Thank you, Kathy. We think Dane County is exceptional too. Other questions for Kathy? All right, quiet group today. Yes.
Wait, I'm going to have a question for, because I'm
Oh, I like that.
for some of the entities on the call, like UW Health just did an event at their very cool solar canopy at their new parking ramp at their East American Family Center campus. I'm sort of making up, Julie, what that's called. And they are going to get a big elective pay credit for that. I'm curious if other folks are aware that their organizations are like thinking about this or pursuing something, or even if on the individual level, were you aware of that there's all this money out there to do stuff?
I mean, I can sort of begin. I was aware, obviously. I mean, there's certainly a lot of headlines, particularly in the last year or so, as many of these credits are coming. I didn't know the depth of what was happening and the different avenues for different entities that could do this work. And I think that's why it's important that we as an organization, other organizations bring you to discuss these different options. Because when you start looking at this and layering all these different things on, I mean, it becomes not just the right thing to do, but economically the right thing to do. And so, no, to me, this was very eye-opening presentation about what's there. And Julie put in the chat, the East Park Medical Center in the American Center, which is near East Madison Hospital. So,
yeah, American Family isn't involved. It's
right. No, did I say American Family?
No, you did not. You did not.
No,
Kathy,
I did.
Kathy had all the names. We realized that we use the word East, American, and Center in many different ways over and over and over again out there. So good luck to everyone. I will just note while I have the mic that we are pursuing the same concept for a clinic addition behind our Digestive Health Center on University Avenue. It's quite a substantial addition. We're proposing with a connected, actually with a separate parking garage that would have the same solar array on the top. And just a side note that we had a celebration when we introduced that solar array about a month ago. And what I thought was so interesting is that people were equally excited about the stormwater capture. That the way that is designed allows us to capture pretty clean stormwater in a much better way without it going through the whole parking garage and collecting oil and dirt and debris from cars. And the response to that was equal to the response to the solar. Now, we're not getting a tax credit for that, but certainly, anything we can do to improve the quality of stormwater is to all of our benefits. So just a side note, as we're thinking about this, a link and you can see it. Yeah, right. It's on its way. It's on its way. Yeah. So we're very excited about it. But anyway, I'll just say, yes, we're very well aware of all this and working on it. And so just a super personal side note, I, of course, am like, well, I should have solar. I have a, pretty open roof. So I followed up with one of the companies that, you fill out a form and you're referred to a vendor, and that really didn't go anywhere. So
that was through the Madison program?
Yeah,
Probably,
I don't
yeah.
know exactly. I went through Focus on Energy's website.
Okay. That's like good feedback for us to know. So here in the area, the thing I will advocate here is the city of Madison has worked with Renew Wisconsin to create this Madison SUN program where you can call or probably fill out a form online on their website, and they'll use like Google tools to go, oh yeah, you're a good solar site, and connect you to a vendor. That the Madison program is an annual group buy. So they have vendors who have negotiated lower prices for consumers, and that's available countywide. We provide some support to that. So that if you or anybody else wants to, that might be a second follow-up on that, Julie, just to reach out to Madison, and you might get, because their vendors are committed to doing things, and you get a slightly better price there.
Perfect. Thank you, Julie. And maybe we just don't need the Google map to look at it. Lincoln can just look out his window and identify whether or not it's good.
Yeah, but not at my house. That would
No, true.
require one
That's
of you
true.
and
But
Nakoma to walk over here and say something.
I might be able to see your house. Take a couple trees down
You
here.
have to climb on your roof.
I'm scared of heights, so I am not getting on my no chance. Great comment from Susan in the chat about NOAA and affordable housing and the tie-in between clean energy as well. Any other questions for Kathy?
Jason, I was just going to
Yes,
mention,
go ahead.
since I had the idea of bringing Kathy in to share information, the school district, as I mentioned, is looking at this. We have our first request in for an IRA reimbursement or electric charging stations that were installed as a result of the 2020 referendum. And certainly we'll be taking a very hard look at all the opportunities as we plan out, not necessarily a facilities referendum that would be on a November 2024 ballot, but the time that will take to create a much longer master plan. And then, you know, what school campuses could we have geothermal? Just looking at all the options and things that we'll have to go through. I think one of the biggest challenges we have is the reimbursement aspect of IRA. So to factor that into our planning, knowing some money might be coming down the road, that I think is just one of the considerations that we have. But I think it's important for my colleagues who are taxpayers to know we will leave no stone unturned. I guess that's kind of a geothermal joke. To get as much money as we possibly can, and, you know, try to reduce anything that we're asking for local taxpayers by taking advantage of it. So thank you.
I mean, I didn't even get that pun. Thank you for pointing that out. Appreciate that very much. Good comment on from Diane about nonprofits eligibility as well. Who's Diane's doing a lot of work with
The
nonprofits.
challenge here, to just note from what Melinda's saying, I mean, the tax credits are all, you do a project and then you file paperwork, you know, the following year, and the IRS gives you that credit back. And so that's why there will be these new rebate programs for low and moderate income households. We know everybody doesn't have the money to front for these expenses. And I think one of the things I'm hoping WEDC helps us figure out is some maybe bridge financing for entities who like nonprofits who don't have the money to wait for that financing to come through. You know, we need to sort of figure out what is that ideal bridge financing look like, and how do we pitch that to, because again, there is billions of dollars to do green investment, and it's not implausible that we could get some, you know, I would be happiest with like very low or no interest loans that would float nonprofits over that waiting period, because that could be huge for, and it might, school districts are so complicated in terms of financing, but as Melinda points out, it might be a need for the school districts too, to not have to wait for that money for a year after the project is done. I mean, you know, these projects can take a couple of years. That's like a long time to wait.
Yeah, those cash management issues certainly are very real for many. Ben.
Thanks, Jason, and thanks for all the info, Kathy. Really appreciate it. I'll just say similarly to Julie, we right after this meeting, I'm hanging out to Sun Prairie for our groundbreaking at our new outpatient center that's going to be right off of 151 there. And I know our facilities team. I don't have all the details. I'm not a facilities guy, but I know that they're looking at every opportunity possible to make it as renewable as they can. And the same thing goes for our recently announced new clinic in the Verona area as well. So to be honest, it might be worthwhile for me to reach out to you separately to
Yes.
have a quick conversation with our VP
Mhm.
that oversees all of our new facilities, just to make sure that we are all aware of everything that's out there and that we're trying to take advantage of as much as we can. So, but really do appreciate the info, and thanks to Melinda for inviting you.
Yeah, definitely, Ben, reach out. We're happy to, we have those and everybody, we have those conversations all the time. I know it isn't always typical for folks in government to go, hey, call us. The other day, I picked up my phone and someone said, you answer your phone. I'm like, yeah, that's what our office does. We all answer our phones, and so we're having these conversations with companies, but I'm also having conversations with people in condo associations who are trying to figure this stuff out, and because we want these dollars to flow to our communities, and this is how we get it done. So we're here for you, definitely. Yeah, thanks again for having me. This was terrific, Jason.
Yeah, thanks, Ben, very much. And just Lincoln, can you see that groundbreaking from your window as well? You seem to have an eye on all
Probably
parts.
can. I can maybe.
Probably can. Yeah.
I'll-
There we go.
I'll wave when I get out there in about
Perfect.
5 minutes.
A live shot of all things East Side Madison Sun Prairie from Lincoln's window. All right. Any final last questions, thoughts for Kathy? Well, Kathy, we just want to say a huge thank you. This was illuminating, eye-opening, very informative, very important work. We really appreciate it. And we really appreciate all that your support for DMI. Certainly, we can make any connections with these organizations. I see Melinda's already in the background making the connections as we speak. I'll send you a note to get the presentation. We'll send the presentation out to the group. And of course, we'll send the information on the June 20th Forest Edge.
Yeah.
Edge. Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Ridges and edges, they're close.
So you're gonna
event.
send this, Jason, right?
Yeah, we'll send. Yep.
You're
And
sending, okay. Because
we
this
recorded
needs to
this
go,
session as well, too.
somebody
so you
needs
have a
to
recording.
somebody needs to, I don't know, capture all of this good information and get it out into the press too. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
really
Yeah.
important. So that's why I could send it to maybe Milford or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. A few folks at the newspaper.
Yep. So
Perfect.
good. I
Kathy,
kept thinking of that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
Yep.
Yep. Kathy, thank you very much. We certainly appreciate all of your support. And just a couple of quick announcements for DMI. We have a whole series of events next week for DMI on the 12th and 13th. The 12th, we have our new IDEA series, which is our includes DEI series and accessibility series. It's going to be at UW South Madison campus. And then we also have our Madison Milwaukee Downtown Exchange in the morning. We're talking about the importance of tourism. So Diane and the team will know well. Our friends talking about the Republican National Convention and why these conventions are so important to our local economy. And then the next day on the 13th, we have our New Faces, New Places at 4 to 6 at ULI's headquarters on 10 East Doty. So hope you can join us for any or all of those events. And thank you again, Kathy. We really appreciate it. Hope you all have a great rest of the day. Melinda, any last words? Nope, she's waving. Yep, she's waving. Yep, good. All right, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Jason, could I just ask a question? One quick
I'm
question
sorry, Eve,
before we
yes.
go.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just curious, given all the attention and the information we learned about what the county is doing, I'm wondering whether government relations is planning on interviewing any of the candidates for county exec after the primary.
Yes, we are not planning on it. We have not been involved in the county government very much. We don't have a huge relationship with the county. Almost the vast majority of our lobbying work is on the city level. So at this point, the board, the executive committee has not decided. They've had a conversation that they didn't want to, but we can certainly revisit it if there is feeling from this committee that that's something we want to do. So if maybe at our August meeting would be the time to
August.
do that, right? Yep.
Yeah.
So maybe we devote a few minutes at the August committee meeting to say, hey, is this something we're interested in doing? And then we can make a recommendation to the executive committee and then, of course, on to the board of directors who would make that decision whether or not we are doing it.
Right.
We do know that our friends at the Greater Madison Chamber of
Oh,
Commerce are interviewing now. They're doing pre-primary. So I think they might have completed all 4. I know they have done at least 3 of 4. And so great question, Eve. And I think let's
Yeah,
make sure we on that.
I totally agree. Eve, thanks for bringing this up because things have changed, you know, in Dane County and the relationship with our city. They've changed a lot. And so I think we need to be thinking about what kind of strengths are required from our new county exec. It's not just health and human services anymore. No, it's changed. Yep.
Yeah.
It's about housing, it's about transportation,
Right.
lots of changes. I agree with you, Eve. Eve, you're
And
on
it
mute.
could be, and
Oh.
sorry, I was just thinking if there's a decision not to endorse, but at least to hear
Yeah.
from, and we have both
Right.
of those options.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I think it would
That's
be
good.
very helpful to all of us as
Yep.
we see more intergovernmental relations.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I would, we certainly have very robust relations with all 4 candidates. I mean, all 4 candidates are heavily involved in DMI
Yeah.
and so we're in a really good position. I mean, literally all 4 go to our events and do stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yes, absolutely. So I'm going to make a note, Melinda, I'll put that on the agenda for a discussion topic if that works for all of you. And then
Yeah.
of course, the recommendation would then move forward to the executive committee, which the timing is perfect because the executive committee and the
Yep.
board meet subsequently thereafter. And so we could make a decision within a couple of weeks. So
Thanks.
does that work for you all?
Thank
All
you.
right.
Sure does.
Thank you, Eve. Thank you,
Yep.
Eve, very much. We appreciate it. Again, not
Thank
meeting in
you.
July because you're all be on vacation and it's like right before July 4th. But we'll make sure to have that on the agenda and I will send out all the follow-up right away for you.